Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the November full council meeting. Before we start, can I just remind everybody that your mobile phones are switched off or on silent? Who's the one who normally is naughty? I can't remember. Me. True. Okay, Lauren, apologies for absence, please.
So I've received apologies from councillors Hayman, Vardy and Yassimi.
Thank you very much. The minutes of the last meeting held on the 5th of October, I'm assuming that everybody's read through them. Are there any alterations to be made? Right, then can I ask you to put your hands up to confirm, approve the minutes? Oh, I need a seconder. Councillor Shires, seconds up. Right, everybody okay?
I wasn't here, Madam
Okay,
Chairman.
fine, that's fine. Items of urgent business, Lauren? No. Declarations of interest?
That's the holiday.
That's the holiday, yeah.
I have a pecuniary interest in item 9, but I've received dispensation to debate and vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Declarations of interest? No. We now go to Chairman's communications. Could we have the first one up, please, Lauren? This was the Royal British Legion reception, which was very nice, and Councillor Withington joined me because Councillor Toy was away on holiday. We did allow him to go away for a holiday, and it's very nice to see you, Liz, there. The next one, this was the Justice Service in Norwich Cathedral. That was lovely. Saw the judges, etc., in their wigs, their full regalia. So that was a very nice service. This was the Civic Thought St Andrew Parish Church, lovely church. That was very nice too. High church service, that one, which was unusual. Don't often get high church services. That was very nice. Another service at Dereham, another very nice church, very nice service. And there was a reception afterwards, but unfortunately I couldn't manage to get to that. But still, that was excellent. I'm getting so holy now with going to church. I can't tell you the amount of times I've been over this since May. But they're lovely, and I get to see some beautiful churches. That funny creature standing there is me. This is the Armistice Day, 11th of November, and huge thanks to Councillor Toy and Councillor Cushing for supporting me at that particular day, and it was very nice. And Steve was there, Steve Blatch, supporting as well. So thoroughly enjoyed that, and we laid a wreath. And then I went to St Mary's Parish Church on Sunday for the remembrance service. I think there's one more, isn't there? There's me with a spade. It's not often you see me sporting a spade, I have to tell you. And I did actually shovel 2 spadefuls of earth into the hole. We were going to do the royal thing, you know, where you pose with them, but we thought no, so we shall. And that's a beautiful oak, an English oak tree. So that was at Pretty Corner. So that's it. Oh, and now my charity quiz night, which unfortunately is the same night as the first opening night of the Pier Christmas show. But I would love to see some of you here at the Poppy Centre, because it's to do with my charities supporting the Priscilla Bacon Hospice and the Children's MAP charity, young persons. So it's tea, coffee and cake is provided, and it starts at 6:30. So if anybody would like to come along, I'd be delighted to see you. That's it, I think. Now we'll go swiftly on to, did you go, did you do no? No, okay. To Tim, Councillor Adams. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Councillor Penfold.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's just a high pitch.
Yes, there is a bit of a high
I'm
pitch.
just wondering whether we might be able to remove that if possible. Thank you. I'm not quite sure what it is.
Okay. Is that all right, councillor Penfold?
Well, it's still there,
Well,
Madam
it
Chairman,
is, but
so
unfortunately, I don't think we can do anything about that. Councillor Adams, leaders' announcements.
Thank you. I wanted to begin by paying tribute to Peter Farley, who recently passed away. Peter, who along with his wife and others set up the Matthew Project, which has made a significant difference to those suffering from substance abuse addiction and to the children and families also impacted. The charity, I feel, has made a lasting impact in my own town, but has of course helped and supported people across the district and much further afield. So North Norfolk is very grateful for Peter's work. We are imminently to begin our precept consultation with residents, and of course the local government sector awaits tomorrow's announcements with frankly some degree of anxiety. The landscape is changing significantly between the meetings here at this authority and inflation driving up costs to a level we perhaps haven't seen since the early 90s. So it's at least unprecedented for most of us in local government. Whilst this authority has been in a good position during this administration, there will be some challenges ahead. We are, of course, particularly concerned for our residents and businesses who have been or who will be impacted by the increased costs, but also potential further risks to services. Since the last meeting, we have, of course, had our the cost of living summit agreed at the previous meeting, which was very well attended and interesting and challenging event. We had speakers from both council statutory services and also voluntary organisations who shared with us the level of increased pressure they are already under before the winter has even occurred. So apologies, there was some earlier confusion on this, but there is a recording that was made of the summit, which I believe can be shared with councillors. We will see some additional pressure on our revenue and benefits team, who are again being called upon to deliver the alternative support for household energy bills fund, which, as I understand, will be for residents without fixed bill suppliers, so heating oil, etc. We do not yet know where we are with the levelling up bids, as these were originally set to be announced in October following the additional delays in the submission process. We now expect an announcement sometime over the winter. The position on county deals is possibly more uncertain, as we do not yet know the government's position on this. We have a further crisis, of course, affecting businesses across the district and the county and the country with avian flu. Our resilience officer is, of course, particularly involved in this on behalf of the Norfolk authorities, and sadly, certain cooperatives have been clearing an increase in wild bird carcasses from locations across the district. And local authorities across Norfolk have made representations to government to address the financial issues that could arise from this response. As per Nigel Lloyd's report today, we have seen a success at an appeal against a fine given to a landlord for poor conditions in a rental property. So I would again like to thank the relevant council officers for their work here. And some of you will have seen a very distressing news story yesterday. And for every reason, it's absolutely right that we continue to tackle landlords who leave their rental properties in such a poor condition. Thank you. That's all I wish to say.
Thank you. Tim, does anybody wish to say anything here? I'll just say I did hear on the news at lunchtime today that eggs could be rationed. Think about it. So don't all rush out and start emptying the shelves, because that's not going to be allowed. Right, now we're going on to public questions and statements. Right, Emma, none received. Matthew?
Sorry, Madam Chair, if I want to ask a question of the leader, do I do that now or in portfolio?
Portfolio.
Portfolio, thank you.
We now go on to portfolio reports. Before we start, Councillor Perry-Warnes wants to ask me a question.
I do. I asked the same question of Councillor Punchard when he was chairman, and so I'm going to repeat it to you. Now the COVID pandemic measures are no longer in place, why have prayers prior to full council meetings not been reinstated? I'm sure members of the clergy throughout the district would be happy to come and say these if offered the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry Warnes. I have asked this before with Officer Denny. I don't think there's any reason why we can't ask clergy to come in.
No, if members are supportive, we can reintroduce the prayers. I can certainly speak to the chairman and we can talk about who you would like to invite.
Can I ask the members to raise their hands if they're okay with the clergy being invited? I think that's the majority. Okay, thank you. That would be fine. Right, so then we go on to the portfolio reports. I'm making an assumption, and I hope a very correct assumption, that you've all read the portfolio reports, because I'm not going to ask the members to go through them, but I am going to ask the members, the cabinet members, if they have any additional information. Yes. Wendy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Yes, I do have a bit of additional information. The long-awaited poverty dashboard is now up and running. So what that means is basically we can collate all of the information. Oh, sorry. We can collect all of the information that we have with people on benefits or anyone that's contacted us, and we can identify if they are likely to be or are going to be in poverty with fuel or water or food, and then we can reach out to them and then offer support. There's 1,300 children in North Norfolk that aren't actually having school dinners that are eligible. So that's something that I would really like to invite the press to invite people to come and apply for that on the Norfolk County Council website. There's also a website called entitled2.co.uk, which is a very handy benefits calculator. So you can pop your information on there. It's not linked to any government organisation, but it will show you if you're entitled to something like council tax benefit or pension credit. So it's really worth having a look at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, you wish to ask a question?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Leader of the Council announced at the recent Cost of Living Summit that the Council has allocated £10,000 to the Cromer Food Hub. I'd just like to, sorry, was that?
Incorrect. So, but I don't want to interrupt you, Matthew. So,
No? Okay.
Yeah.
All I was going to say is I'd note the generosity of that donation and commend you for your kindness, but if that's not right, okay. All I was going to ask is that would there be any further scope to make payments like this to other community groups across North Norfolk? If I have groups in Stalham, for example, that I think could benefit of discretionary payments, is that something we could look into?
So just to first of all say it wasn't the Cromer Food Hub. There's no such thing at the moment. That there are organisations that are looking at that and elsewhere, of course, across the district. But the organisation that benefited from the £10,000 was the North Norfolk Food Bank. So it obviously benefits the district as a whole, including, of course, Stalham via the correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the Methodist Church or the Baptist Church?
Baptist Church.
There you go. So obviously we heard from them, and I described the numbers really quite stark. 43% increase on their demand already. They're expecting across Norfolk to see £100,000 worth of demand on their energy bank, and that's quite considerable. So the funding that we gave them will likely be used to meet the needs of residents who are in a crisis due to their energy. They have a very good system there where they're able to upload credit onto the residents' accounts. I think in terms of our outlook and planning for the cost of living crisis, it's hard to sort of give definitive answers. We don't want to sort of try and plan our position yet. Things will change. There will be a mosaic response. There will be things that we learn along the way, which I feel we did here at the summit that you mentioned, that we will obviously take forward. But there may be other organisations that might need some help delivering support to residents. So our eyes and ears are open. Obviously, we don't have an unlimited pocket.
Thank you, Tim. I'm quite glad to hear that that flexibility there. So certainly, if I hear of any groups in my little patch that could do with some extra funding, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. My question is to Councillor Tim Adams. On page 24, under the middle column of HR, I wonder if he could clarify, please, what is the financial increase to the authority in percentages of what that pay rise involves? And can you assure me that that is the only pay award that will be offered to the staff? Thank you.
For accuracy, I'll have to obviously give you a written response, John. I wouldn't be able to give you those figures now. I'm unaware of any further pay awards, but I think, for accuracy's sake, I'd rather give you a written response if that's okay.
Well, unless the chief executive corrects me, my recollection is it was 5.9%. I've not had any, or in that region, I've not had anything further.
I thought it was
and
5.3, but Councillor Seward might be correct. I thought it was 5 point something,
So
I think.
I'm pretty sure it's 5.3%. Well, yeah.
And the extra cost that wasn't budgeted for was somewhere in the region of £450,000 to £470,000. And there was a ballot, and I don't know the outcome of that ballot yet.
That's fine. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just a general question, really. I just wondered why some of the portfolio holders haven't made any reference to any meetings, whether internal or external.
Are you answering this one?
Yeah,
Wendy?
would you like to know? Sorry, it was my fault. I've missed them off. If you'd like me to go through them. So
I'll take a written confirmation if that's all right. Thank you.
yeah, sure, I got them here. Cabinet Coastal Transformation Project briefing, strategic partnership briefing with flagship Paris Council. Oh, I've written, sorry, yeah, will do, thank you.
So if any of the members who had given the report haven't put down the meetings, please just send them around. Thank you, Nigel. Councillor Heinrich.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Question for Councillor Kershaw. Is a Cabinet Member for Sustainable Growth able to confirm my understanding that monitoring in North Walsham Marketplace demonstrates there has been absolutely no reduction in footfall during the essential improvement works to enhance the town centre? Would he further agree that any perceived reduction in trade is entirely due to inflationary pressures caused by unaffordable energy prices, among other things, and the appalling mismanagement of the economy by the Conservative government? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heinrich. We have been monitoring electronically footfall in the High Street Action Zone and Market Street as part of the High Street Action Zone for the last 8 months, and it's remained buoyant. Interestingly, since the return to school in September, we've seen a slight increase in footfall. That has not resulted in an increase in business. What we're finding is that and I've been talking to businesses in North Walsham repeatedly and been to the business forum. What we're finding is that businesses are suffering, principally because of the increase in fuel costs, foodstuffs, especially the fast food shops are really hurting, and the converse argument is that the people that use those are the ones that are suffering most from the cost of living. And even today, there was an announcement by Cross and Blackwell who said they have seen an increase in profit because people are buying more sauces and cooking sauces, so they're not going out to these sort of restaurants. So it is a concern, but the footfall has remained high and has increased since September. I can also add now that the works on the east of the marketplace have finished, and the Market street has been resurfaced and the barriers have been taken down. So hopefully the footfall will increase and that will stop. There will be some work on the west side, which will stop for Christmas and then it will commence, but we are ahead of schedule at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is to Councillor Nigel Lloyd. This council has a corporate plan objective to plant 110,000 trees across North Norfolk, and at the last report, I seem to recall we had planted in excess of 60,000. And I think that was at the end of the spring of this year. Can the cabinet member tell us how many of those trees have survived this exceptionally dry summer? And if not, can he tell us what plans there are in place to reliably collect that information? And if and when that will be reported to full council, please?
Okay. Each of the applicants that receives trees, you might not have picked this up, Councillor Dixon, but they sign a document to say that they will maintain the trees and specifically throughout any dry periods. That said, there is always, if you speak to anyone like particularly the Woodland Trust, there is an attrition rate for any planted tree. And that can range between 5 and 8% of those trees planted. We don't have the resources to go and check every single tree that's planted, but we do ask those that the recipients of the trees sign a pledge to contact us with that. We're not going to go around collecting all that data. It's just a fact of life that some trees actually just don't make it through the summer periods. I think that's the best answer I can give you at this stage, and I have no plans to go around checking on the number planted last year was in excess of 70,000 actually at the end of the planting season, and we've got plans well afoot. In fact, several projects have been completed already this planting season, will continue throughout that season. And yeah, we're well on track to meet our initial pledge, and we hope actually to exceed it. I think that's the best answer I can give you. If you, yeah.
Councillor Holiday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for Councillor Seward. Is there any free parking for Christmas shoppers planned for the market towns? Thank you.
Yes, there is, and it's going to be on a Monday and a Tuesday on the 5th and 6th of December.
Has that gone round has that gone round generally?
I
I don't think it has.
don't think it's been publicised.
It's with comms to get out this week. It's been the information
Get
been
it
given to
out.
comms.
It's going out
It's a bit late, isn't it? But still, there we are. So there is some free parking. Okay, Councillor Toy. You only have about 10 minutes, I must say, for this session still, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will try and be brief. It's if I could just return to the avian influenza and the resilience part of Councillor Lloyd's report, where the confusion about responsibilities. I've had this raised with residents. Can he just give me assurances that we will continue to resolve these communications issues between between DEFRA and AFA to make sure that people understand the right way to do things? Thank you.
Yeah. Our officers actually have been leading on this for all of the Norfolk councils, and Alison Sayer presented to the Norfolk leaders recently, and after a debate, a letter will be sent to DEFRA asking for guidance on procedures in dealing with wild birds to be made clearer to people and more readily accessible. And we'll continue to work with colleagues in trading standards and other districts to ensure that this matter is given the necessary attention. If that answers your question, Councillor Toy.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spagnola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to thank all the officers that worked extremely hard to deliver this survey in the Cost of Living Summit. My question is, to Councillor Adams, will we be having a follow-up of surveys on the cost of living crisis so we're able to understand the situation, adapt services to match and understand when it's over?
Yes, I mean, I think, as I said earlier on to Matthew, we've got learning here. We will be responding to some of the ideas that emerged in the breakout sessions, and the other information we got from the organisations at the event. The event was very useful, and we're very grateful to them for sharing that with us and for sharing their ideas. Certainly very difficult, as I said, I think, to plan the response to the living cost crisis due to the changing landscape. It's changing quite quickly. So I think the strength is in remaining as flexible as possible. You know, we've got some good experience here with work that officers did during COVID, which I think some of is transferable. We've of course already supported the food bank with some additional funding, as has been highlighted, because of the additional pressures they're already under. Our community connectors are very busy talking to organisations in different localities across the district, and particularly those setting up warm hubs and hotspots, as they're also termed. And that's very interesting work. There will be more work that emerges there. I learned recently that housing associations are now seeing lots of requests from residents to have their gas supplies actually stocked up so that they avoid standing charges, as well as the possibility of someone turning on the gas. So very disturbing to hear that, to be honest with you. So we're clearly going to have more work to do, and there'll be more learning as we move through the winter.
Thank you. Councillor Withington.
Thank you. With the financial challenges facing everyone, including this council, and the change in the end of year forecast to a deficit, is the administration proposing any cuts to services? And that's obviously for Councillor Seward.
I'd like to thank Councillor Withington for a question. Simple answer to that is no. We are in a financial position where for this financial year, we can maintain our services. We can also maintain our capital programme. In terms of looking forward, well, just going to say this, who knows? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vardy.
Barley, Madam Chairman.
Oh,
Sorry to correct you.
Barley, I'm so sorry, Adam.
That's all right.
It's me age, dear. That's what it is. I have to tell you.
No comment.
Right.
My question is to Councillor Fredericks. So as we are now rapidly moving towards the colder months, and with known officer workload and financial pressures, can you assure us that the care of rough sleepers, a job which officers have always done very well, will not now be compromised?
Thank you, Adam. So I don't make the same mistake. Yes, we're really quite thankful that we don't have a lot of rough sleepers sleeping outside in our districts at the moment. As you quite rightly said, the officers are fantastic. They go out and support rough sleepers, and they try and encourage the rough sleepers to come in. So that invitation is obviously there all year round. And there is a system called sweep or SWEP. So that kicks in when the temperatures fall below 0 for 3 nights running. And we make an extra special plea for rough sleepers to come in and have a warm and safe place to sleep, and also to provide hot meals for them. So I hope that answers your question.
It was interesting to note that some rough sleepers just don't want to come in. They're perfectly happy rough sleeping, and it's their right. Councillor Punchard.
Thank you, Councillor. Question for Councillor Shires around customer service. Will more work be done with regards to integration of our website linking to Serco for fault or missed bin collections, because it's a very clunky and unuser-friendly process currently? Thank you.
In short answer, yes, we would very much like to refine that. There are a number of issues specifically when you're asked to wait a certain amount of time before you report your bin. But then when you do that, you can't do that online. And is that the issue you're directly referring to?
Yes, and just the usability of the website for certain residents, it's not a straightforward report a missed bin and it takes you to Serco, etc. It doesn't flow properly.
No, so what that does for us is because we had an issue with the way that our system communicated with Serco system, we created something which then generated the work ticket for them. But we are always looking to refine it to create better customer service. If you've got any suggestions or anything you think would work better, I'd gladly meet with you to talk about it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Councillor Gay, if I may. If we can come back to the community connectors. Would it be helpful for members, if it haven't already been issued, sort of a note of who they are and what the precise areas they covers? I know my colleague Councillor Dixon has been fortunate, twice been granted an audience with the community connector for his area, but all I've seen, I think, in my area is I've seen something from Fakenham Town Council, but unless my colleagues in Fakenham, Councillor Punchard and rest have known who their local one is for our patch, I don't know, but it would be helpful to know who they are and what their boundaries are, so we can sort of have a chat with them, please.
Of course. Would the members' bulletin be a good vehicle for that, in your judgment, or would you prefer some sort of formal briefing?
Frankly, an email would probably go to most members. I think would be sufficient.
All member email.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cushing, of course.
Might be helpful if they did come in at some point and address the members, I think, because I think we know they're around, but nobody's really met them yet. I've had a conversation online with them. So we could ask them to come in perhaps before one of the sessions here, full council, or yes, Richard.
The chair of the cost of living crisis was one of the community connectors, and I mean I found that very helpful and communicative in my ward. I can only speak from experience.
Right, thank you. You want to come in on this one, Georgie? Okay, and then Nigel. This is unusual, but I'll allow this.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, because you said none of us had met them, I've met the one for Holt. She was lovely.
Sorry, I didn't. Apologies. Some of us have met them and some haven't. Yes, Nigel.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I have met my area connector twice, if not three times now. Good. Once in person and twice remotely. Yeah. But I would actually suggest, rather than bringing them here, that you should really meet them on the patch, because I think that's more pertinent. And that's only speaking from experience.
Good idea. Perhaps at our local parish or town council meetings then. Okay. Councillor Penfold.
Thank you. And just on that point, our rural community connector is coming to our Worsted Wednesday's coffee morning next week, but she did actually contact me by email to introduce herself, which I thought was very helpful. So whether they could do that to each member, and then you've got the conversation going. My question is to Councillor Kershaw, and it's about the Rural England Prosperity Fund, please. And I just note that 40% of our population lives in rural areas. So does the local partnership group have the correct mix of representatives to form this bid for rural businesses? Thank you. There is something in my report to cover part of this, and I'm pleased to announce that we have already held a meeting of the local partnership group last Monday, and the group comprises both our MPs who attended. It comprises the Federation of Small Businesses, National Farmers Union, the CLA, Community Action Norfolk, the Local Enterprise Partnership, and other groups. The meeting was very interesting. The fund doesn't kick in until next April, and in the first year we only get about 20% of the fund, and the second year we get the remainder. And this is a capital fund. There is no percentage for administration, which means we have more work for our officers to do. The interesting conversations that came out of the meeting, the MPs were asked where they wanted the funding to be directed. One MP wanted it solely directed at the community, and the other MP wanted it solely directed at business. So that's something we've got to overcome. But yes, I mean, it's not a great deal of money. So what we're looking for is where we can most effectively target this funding for the people in most need and the benefit for the community.
Thank you.
That answers your question.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to be confident that you felt that the mix was right to represent the rural nature of our district.
Yes, I was pleased to see that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Birch.
Hi, this is a question for Councillor Lloyd. I see in your report that the team share an environmental tip of the week. Is this something that the communications team could expand out to the public?
I can certainly look into that. What this is about is the lead climate change officer posts tips of the week, environmental tips of the week to staff. Members don't always get to see those, but they're fairly mundane things, but useful things. Things like how to switch over energy supplies to 100% renewable. Topical things like bonfires, watching out for hedgehogs and stuff like that. And then, of course, on the NNDC comms, our residents and announcements that affect our residents will always take precedence. But having said that, we ran a successful scheme, Safer Seals campaign last year. Most recently this year, we've run some stuff in Recycling Week, and I could certainly talk to the comms team to see if there's any value in spreading the word more about those environmental tips.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Stenton, and then I think we will finish.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. My question is to Councillor Shires. You can't hear me. My question is to Councillor Shires, Customer Services. Your report indicates that the council call center response times are being good. Yet my question is, why is that one resident I know waited last week over 24 minutes in the queue before the calls got answered? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stenton. As I have repeated in previous meetings, if there are any specific cases which are brought to full council, I would ask that they're investigated thoroughly by the team first. And to be able to do that, I will need the date and time of the call and the phone number that was called from, and we can forensically analyse the situation, including members of staff and what else was going on in terms of call volume at the time. And if you're happy to do that, then I'll thoroughly investigate that.
I'm happy to do that now as I am this resident, so I've got the logs to hand. And I consented when I spoke with the officer that my member's email is used for communication in case it's subject to freedom of information. So yes, I would like that to be investigated, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If you can send me the date, the time and the number you called for, I'll action that
Like
after
I
the
said, I can
meeting.
provide you with that now. I'm consenting to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it then? No other questions from anybody? Well done. We've answered a lot today and we've done it within the time limit. So thank you. And we now go to agenda item 9, recommendations from the Cabinet. The 3rd of October to the 7th of November. I now go to Councillor Seward. The first of these is the council tax discounts determination 2023 to 2024. Councillor Seward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to move that full council support the recommendations set out from paragraphs 1 to 8. There is just two things I would like to highlight, which are changes. The first is dealt with in paragraph 1 and the discounts for the years 23-24. The council's cabinet is proposing that from April next year, where properties which cannot be lived in but are being repaired to make them habitable, they should receive a 50% discount on their council tax bills rather than no discount. The repairs must be completed within 9 months to avoid delays. For a Band D council tax property, this will mean a council tax reduction at current rates for a full year of around £980. We believe, Madam Chairman, that with the delays in finding contractors to do building work at the current time, this is an appropriate thing to do. And we believe the necessary safeguards are incorporated within what is recommended to ensure that people do carry out these repairs when they can get the contractors. But we do believe they are entitled to a discount on their council tax. The second recommendation is in paragraph 5, which is a new second homes premium of 100%, and that this is applied from April 24. Madam Chairman, this relates to a piece of legislation that is currently going through Parliament, known as the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill. And it is proposed that local authorities should have the power to charge 100% council tax premium or double the existing charge on second homes. If royal assent is received in April, then, in the spring of next year, then we are required to give 12 months notice in order to bring such a discount, such an increase in council tax into operation. It is for this reason that we are asking council tonight to approve this, so that providing the necessary legislation is passed, we can actually bring this about. There is a number of one or two things I think we have to say. Firstly, until the legislation is actually passed, I don't know if it will be 100% premium, and I don't know if there will be flexibility on that. And I don't know if the premium is introduced, whether there will be flexibility for it to be charged across the whole of the district, or whether there will be flexibility just to charge in those areas where second homes are a particular issue. The other proviso, I think, is this. As council will be aware, this council only receives about 9p in the pound for every on the council tax. The majority goes to the county council and to a lesser extent the police authority. If in fact we are to introduce this charge, we are firmly of the view that that money must be ring-fenced to fund affordable housing, to compensate for the serious shortage of housing stock, and to make some real inroads into the 2,700 households that are currently on our waiting list. Now, in order to do that, we shall have to enter negotiations, obviously, with the county council and the police authority, but it is imperative, if we are to make this particular premium, that in fact that money is ring-fenced to deal with the acute housing shortage in this district, and particularly in areas where there is a large number of second homes. So it's with those provisos that I move paragraphs 1 to 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak on this? Right, now we go to a vote. This is voting. Seconder. Who wants to speak? Councillor Whittington.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate some of the facts about this that Councillor Seward has already highlighted, and to stress how important it is that this comes forward. And I hope very much that some kind of legislation is coming forward in April. There are a lot of gaps at the moment in what we know about it, and which makes it very difficult. But with an area in our areas, some of our areas have 50% of their homes, as we know, as second homes. So we are really very dependent on some kind of money coming in if we are to be able to take the interventionist approach that we need to take to come some way to solving this housing crisis. And I think we've just heard 2,700 households on our waiting list at the moment. So, you know, we do need to be able to have that interventionist approach. And I can't stress strongly enough how important it's going to be that some decisions are made either at government level or with us when we agree it, that the £8 million that could be potentially be raised from this is given and ring fenced to the district council as the housing authority. It is only by having this kind of funding that we will be able to buy those pieces of land that will enable housing providers to be producing viable plots and viable exception sites, etc., which can then go some way towards solving that crisis. So there will have to be discussions if there aren't sufficient rigidity or in the legislation with Norfolk County Council and Fire and Police Authority, because obviously if we only receive 8 pence in every pound of that 8 million, it's not going to be enough to resolve that. So I do feel strongly that this should be coming forward, but I really do hope that the right action is taken as part of the legislation and it is thought about how we get that money into the housing authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whittington. So now we do go. This is to approve the recommendations. We need a seconder. You want to speak now? Oh, second. This is so seconded by Councillor Kershaw. And we go to the vote, voting en bloc for numbers 1 to 8. This is to approve the recommendations. Would you please raise your hands?
It's unanimous.
That's unanimous.
No, councillor Stenton didn't vote.
Oh, right. Oh, right. So against? Abstention.
3 abstentions.
Sorry, I can't see you very well back there. It's just, you'll have to grow a bit, I think. Right, now we go over the page and we go to Budget Monitoring Board. I think next, is that next? Again, over to Councillor Seward.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have nothing to add on the prudential indicators in relation to the budget monitoring report period 6. I wasn't at the last overview and scrutiny meeting, and the way the agenda is organised means that Councillor Dixon comes behind me. But I do welcome the recommendation that in the year it forecast overspend, it's reflected in the corporate risk register, and that the RAG rating be reviewed by GRAC at each December 2nd, 22nd meeting, and that regular updates are provided to members on the measures being taken to mitigate and return the current forecast deficit to achieve a balanced budget outturn for the financial year 22-23. So I thank the Scrutiny Committee for that, and I shall certainly, it's a recommendation that I will want to be activated. The only other thing I would just say about this, we are in unprecedented times in terms of trying to deal with inflationary cost pressures. These were not pressures when I think about it that 12 months ago we could have been in any position to have known about. Indeed, if I had talked about 11% inflation by October, I would have been accused of scaremongering, I'm sure. But that's where we are, and we will have to deal with what's in front of us. But I do just remind members that this is a forecast at this stage. And I did look this morning at what the forecast said for the monitoring period 12 months ago. And that was projecting a surplus of just under £79,000. We actually ended up with a surplus of over £600,000. So these are just forecasts, and we just need to remind that. But what I would like to stress, and what is important, is that we do monitor the situation very closely and that we share this information with both the Risk and Audit Committee and also Overview and Scrutiny. So it's on that basis, Madam Chairman, that I move the recommendations 1 and 2.
Thank you very much, Councillor Seward. Now we're going to vote on the first budget monitoring, and I need a seconder. Thank you. Councillor Heinrich is my seconder for that. So this is to vote for the approval of the recommendations for budget monitoring. Would you please raise your hands?
Everyone for, could you change against and abstain just in case I haven't seen that?
Right, we're going to go through objections, abstentions. No, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. And number 2, prudential indicators. I need a seconder. Councillor Shires. This is to vote for the recommendations for approval. Would you please, prudential indicators, raise your hands? We're just going to ask again, any against? Any abstentions? Right, thank you very much. That's fine. Thank you, Eric. Now we go to agenda item 10, recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Nigel, Nigel, have you anything to say on that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. There were 2 recommendations. You've already heard them from Councillor Seawood. I can add nothing more to them. So you have already voted on those, but I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Councillor Dixon on Overview and Scrutiny? No, thank you. We now pass to agenda item 11, recommendations from the Governance Risk and Audit Committee. I asked Councillor Rest, have you any report on this, please?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I would just like to report that the is in fairly good detail for the members, and I have only one observation that I would like to make, which you will find on page 126. And it's under the heading at the top of external audit. And I would just think the members ought to be aware that there is a substantial increase in the fee that this authority will have from our external auditors of 150% increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we any knowledge of why it has increased this much, please? Councillor Blatch, Officer Blatch, do you know?
So don't elevate me to a position of councillor, please, Chair. This is a group procurement through Public Services Audit Accounts. So we're part of a consortium nationally for external audit services for a 5-year period. They've been out to the market. There are a number of regional bids or contracts that are awarded, and the PSAA have advised that the average across those tenders or submissions is 150% increase on the tender prices for the current 5-year contract. I think there is concern across the sector at that increase. I think it does reflect pressure in the service or in external audit in terms of the tightness of the labour market. But there is a position that is being shared across local government as a whole, and I think representations will be made to the Minister about the concerns around those increased costs.
Councillor Gay, you wish to make a question, ask a question?
Yes, I just wanted to ask Councillor Rest, is this the same external audit that has caused so many delays?
Yes, it is. We don't have a choice of which external auditor we have. It is given to us. They are covering this particular area. So it is still the same one.
Councillor Fredericks?
I was actually just going to ask if central government are going to help out with that increase in fee. I just wondered if you were.
We're still waiting.
Thank you.
Councillor Penfold, you wanted to ask a question on this one?
Yes, thanks. So that 150%, that's a contract that runs for 5 years. Might that increase in year 2 and 3 and 4? I mean, what's the position there, or is that over the whole 5 years?
My understanding is that's across the 5 years.
My goodness, it'd be good if lots of small businesses could raise their fees like that. But there we are. I can't say anything about that. Anything else, Councillor Rest, you wish to say? Thank you so much. So we're voting on Governance Risk and Audit Committee Annual Report 21-22. Can I have a seconder, please, Councillor Punchard? And this is to vote for approve the recommendations. Can you raise your hands? Thank you. Are there any against? And any abstentions? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. We now go to agenda item 12. Recommendations from the Constitution Working Party. I ask Councillor Barley if he could introduce this, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That was spot on this time. Thank you. The Constitution Working Party met on the 25th of October, and you will see the recommendations laid out before you alongside the detailed minutes provided by Officer Denny. Recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 5 are there to strengthen and ensure greater efficiency and clarity on specific terms and processes within the Constitution. Our 4th recommendation for full council is to initiate the process of a thorough review of the organisation's and NDC's constitution. This has not taken place for around 12 years, and it is vital that such a review is taken to ensure that the council's constitution is adept to allow high standards of governance. Our recommended choice is the LGA. And Madam Chairman, I'm more than happy to propose all these recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Varley. We're going to go for the first of the points, review of working parties and groups. This is a recommendation to approve this particular agenda. No, I don't think we're taking.
If appropriate, Madam Chairman, can we take these on block?
I thought we said we were taking them in defence.
If members are happy that they're taken on block, if there's a seconder.
Oh, right. So this would be to take the whole of number 12, the recommendations, on block for approval. Are you, before we go into a vote, are you okay with that, everybody? Yes, yes, all of you? Okay, so the recommendation is to approve on block items 1 to 5 of agenda item 12, the Constitution Working Party. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Gay, would you please raise your hands? This is for approval. All those for? Put your hands down, please. Any against? And any abstentions? No, thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you. We now go to item 13, recommendation from the Employment and Appeals Committee, appointment of the Director of Resources. Now, I understand Officer Claxton may have given the report, but I think it's over to you, isn't it now?
Thank you, Chairman. So this report proposes the appointment of Tina Stankley as Director of Resources and Section 151 Officer. This is a positive recommendation from the Employment and Appeals Committee that is politically balanced and met and interviewed Ms Stankley a few weeks ago. The recommendation is before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Rest.
Thank you. Can I just ask a couple of points of clarification? How many applications were there for the position, and how many of those applicants were interviewed?
There were 4 applications received. We were advised externally by Solace, Society of Local Authority Chief Executives, their public sector recruitment agency function. 4 applications received. 2 of those were deemed as not able to demonstrate qualifications in accordance with the requirements. 2 were invited for interview, but 1 withdrew.
Thank you. So any other questions for this one? No. Right. So this is to approve the recommendation. I need a seconder, please, for this. Councillor Heinrich, seconded. So this is a vote for approval of the recommendation to the appointment of Tina Stankley as the Director of Resources and designated S151 officer. Would you please raise your hand if you vote in favour? Thank you. And could we have any against? And any abstentions? you. That's unanimously approved. We now go to item 14, Community Governance Review, Tranche Parish Council. I'll ask Officer Blatch to speak on this one, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So this report was presented to you at your meeting of the 5th of October, allowing consultation to proceed in the local community to reduce the number of parish councillors on Tranche Parish Council from 11 down to a proposed number of 9. The parish council had initially requested a reduction to 7, but work undertaken by your elections team found that the average for similar electorates in a parish had 9 parish councillors. The consultation has been taken forward and a very strong level of support indicated for the recommendation for 9 parish councillors to be on the parish council. From this point forward, that would include for the local government elections in May of next year. It has support also from both the district councillor, Councillor Heyman, and the county councillor. So the recommendation for you before you this evening is to endorse the consultation and to move forward with Tranche Parish Council having 9 parish councillors from this point forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak on this? Right, we did talk about this at the last meeting. We now go to the recommendation to agree that from the 1st of December 2022, Tranche Parish Council will be made up of 9 parish councillors. Can I have a seconder? The motion is to approve. Councillor Kershaw. I went blank for a minute there, Richard. That's not unusual either. So this is the recommendation to approve. If you could raise your hands, please. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? No, that's unanimously approved. Thank you very much for that. Questions received from members, item 15. Emma? No, none. Right. So we now go to the opposition business. It's 30 minutes for this, as per normal. So I understand. Well, I hope you've all read this. Okay. So I'm going to ask Councillor Cushing if you would please propose this opposition motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As members will be aware, Serco implemented their new refuse and recycling collection timetable at the start of September. This affected over 90% of the collections in North Norfolk. And I make no criticism of Serco for implementing the new timetable, as we're told that this will be more cost effective and reduce carbon emissions in the long run. Given the scale of the changes, it was a certainty there would be some teething problems while the new timetable bedded in. However, it was my assumption that there had been a lot of care and attention paid to the planning, the changes by both Serco and this council, so that the disruption would have lasted only a couple of weeks or so and affected only a small minority of residents. However, the scale and duration of the disruption has left me dumbfounded and may rightly be described as something of a shambles. Over the 9-week period since the new timetable was implemented, there have been well over 2,000 missed bin collections. That has in perspective, the equivalent for the pre-new timetable period would have been about 250. Our Member of Parliament, Duncan Baker, has been inundated with complaints, which he and his staff have had to escalate to the council authorities, and I'm sure many members of this council have received complaints too. Even as of last week, Serco was still reporting 130 missed deliveries. Now, they're all statistics, so I'd like to give members an example of a distress caused to one resident in the area in which I live. He's an OAP and he's the sole carer for a seriously ill wife, and he has more than enough on his plate to cope with without worrying whether his rubbish has been collected. He had no refuse or recycling collections for 3 or 4 weeks. He telephoned the council office and eventually spoke to somebody who said they would investigate and come back to him, but no one did. He also called Serco twice with a similar result. It was my intercession that actually helped get his collections reinstated. He was so upset that he was threatening to take his rubbish to the office and dump it outside the front door. As he said, it's North Norfolk District Council's responsibility, which he pays through his council tax, to collect his rubbish. And that's really the key point I'm making here. if all our residents were asked that sort of family fortunes question, name one thing that district council does, I'm sure that collecting the bins would be top of the poll by probably a country mile. And though Serco are responsible for the bin collections, the ultimate accountability lies with the North Norfolk District Council and this Liberal Democrat administration. While the Serco management team must accept their blame for its failures in delivering the collection service, NNDC must accept responsibility for ensuring their transition to the new collection round was properly planned, adequately resourced in terms of staff, vehicles, familiarisation training and call centre capacity, and had contingency arrangements in place to cope with missed collections. It was the council's duty to work closely with Serco to ensure it was confident all these were covered to minimise disruption for our residents before agreeing to the initiation of the new timetable. Something clearly went amiss in this process. I challenge whether this council has the right balance in place in terms of its relationship with Serco. Is too much delegated. What oversight did the portfolio holder have to make sure he was happy the transition would flow as smoothly as it could? In conclusion, I want to make it clear I attach no blame whatsoever to the Serco lorry drivers and loaders. I'm sure I speak for all members when I say they deserve our utmost appreciation. They undertake a physically demanding job that requires social hours, extremely early starts, and often in inclement weather. However, NNDC must hold its hands up, and as stated in the motion, we call on the council to publicly apologise to residents and businesses for its part in those service delivery failures, and to redouble its efforts to work with Serco to restore the expected service delivery standards across the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cushing, and you did very well. 5 minutes. Now I'm going to ask Councillor Dixon, do you wish to speak now, or are you going to hold off until the end?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I will second this motion, but I will reserve my right to speak until after the debate is completed.
Thank you very much. I now go to the portfolio holder to respond to this motion. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If our residents ever receive a less than perfect service, it is of great concern to this Liberal Democrat administration. A public apology has already been made by Council Leader Tim Adams in the latest Outlook magazine, which has been landing on every North Norfolk doorstep, doormat over the past 2 weeks. I also gave an apology in person at ONS, as I did, as I believe Serco did too. That was on Wednesday, the 9th of December. To those residents that experienced a delayed collection as a result of the targeted operation model implementation, can I call that Tom in future? Because it's a mouthful, to be frank. I would like to apologise once again and assure them that mitigations were in fact rapidly put in place. I can give assurances that our waste collection services are now almost back to pre-Tom levels, and I thank our residents for their patience. The reorganisation of rounds was necessary due to the significant growth in housing stock within North Norfolk and the success of this administration in growing our tradeway service. This level of customer growth was making many rounds difficult to complete and in themselves causing delays to collections. We are assured by Serco that new collection rotas will provide a more efficient service by making optimum use of their resources. To the Conservative group, I would say that this contract includes 2 other Conservative controlled councils working in partnership with the Liberal Democrat North Norfolk District Council. Our officers agreed that the TOMs be implemented in both Breckland and Kings Lynn before they did in North Norfolk, so that Serco would gain experience in implementing these changes. This gave me some comfort, as it did our officers. To suggest that contingency plans were not in place is just simply wrong. 6 additional vehicles were hired, including personnel for 6 additional crews. A further 6 additional call centre staff were also deployed. Crews carried out practice runs across North Norfolk, and each cab was fitted with a tablet containing all the round details. Every household received a leaflet advising them of the changes. And these were also publicised on North Norfolk District Council social media and web pages. It is just simply not correct to suggest that our officers failed to work closely with Serco to plan this project. And I resent this slur on our officers and their diligence and professionalism. Despite this risk mitigation, Serco fell below the high standards that we expect at NNDC. Unlike the Conservative group, I'm prepared to criticise Serco's management. While Serco could have done much more in hindsight to address some of the issues which led to the level of miscollections, many of these were not of their own making. The disastrous Brexit deal is still causing a national shortage of HGV drivers in the UK. This did cause Serco difficulties initially. Their agency simply could not supply the required staff with the correct skills. This was despite our officers having received assurances that these additional resources I mentioned previously were in fact available. Pushed hard by our officers, Serco rectified the situation by contracting to a new agency. They then implemented a 7-day working pattern to catch up. Matters were worsened, of course, by the further delays due to the additional bank holiday on the 19th September, which was on the second week after implementation. Despite the problems experienced during the TOM implementation, and in fairness to Serco, I would remind the Conservative group that Serco implemented a seamless transfer from Kier in 2020. Unlike many Conservative-run councils in Norfolk, they maintained a full waste collection service throughout the pandemic, through the fuel crisis, which was also caused by a shortage of HGV driver shortages, and through the Conservative government initiated failures caused by the pingdemic, which caused so much grief to the UK economy. I share their view that the waste collection is arguably our most public-facing service. Perhaps, therefore, they might have expended a little more time and effort on it themselves by better attending the 2 member briefings that were held. I would have welcomed their feedback, as would have our officers. Each week, there are around 70,000 individual waste collections occurring in North Norfolk. The vast majority of our customers saw an uninterrupted service, but to those that did experience issues, I apologise once again and assure residents that a great deal of time and effort has been expended on rectifying the problems that arose. And we will continue to work very closely with Serco. Whilst I accept that some residents experience problems and deserve an apology, I cannot accept the appalling criticisms that the Conservative group have directed upon council staff. I will not therefore support this item of opposition business. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. It's now open to members. Does anybody wish to speak on this motion? Councillor Shires. Councillor Brown. Councillor Shires first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our customer services team, who during the transition period did step up and field a large volume of calls. The reason that people chose to call the council primarily is based on the fact that we give good customer service. I just want our teams who do watch these meetings to feel that they are acknowledged by us as individuals for doing the work that they do. So that's a thank you from me. And I just want to remind everybody in the room, as it appears that it's been forgotten, that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee have the power to call in items when they wish. And after the member briefings, I'm not aware that this was called into scrutiny before this was implemented.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have here a copy of the Outlook magazine, which may not have reached Councillor Cushing's particular area of our district, but and 2,000 probably represents 0.0065%, which is too many. But anything is too many in effect. But what we have to recognise is that shortcomings in management have been addressed at Serco. We had the senior contracts manager attend overview and scrutiny on the 9th of November. He informed us that he's only 4 weeks into the job. And we're now in the middle of a 9-week trial period, which commenced on the 5th of September, I believe. So we have to accept that these things will present challenges, but it's many, many years since the rounds were reviewed, probably over 10 years ago. So we've taken this on, and we are prepared to do something to ensure that that when the glitches are ironed out, crews will finish a particular round within the day. They will cut down journey times, and so on and so forth. During the period, we need to acknowledge that there have been periods of vehicle breakdown because of the aging vehicles in the fleet. And there has also been crew sickness. Whole crews have had to miss a delivery day due to COVID. So I think on that basis, and just to be clear, we do not criticise the employees who do a wonderful service, and we must not forget that during the COVID, they continued working when many authorities did not, which is fantastically to their credit. We do have issues, as Councillor Lloyd has said, with the management of Serco, and we will continue to liaise, consult with them to improve that aspect of their contract. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In proposing this opposition business, Councillor Cushing said he apportions no blame to Serco loaders or drivers, and I'm sure that's right. We would all accept that, but he didn't extend this to our hardworking NNDC officers. And I think, as always, words are very important in these sorts of things. And what I don't like about this opposition business is the attack that it makes on our NNDC officers, who have been incredibly hardworking and are hardworking in delivering this change. And I know from personal experience, when I've had an issue in the Worstead ward and I've reported that, the response has been brilliant. It's come back straight away. The issue has been resolved. Officers have even telephoned the residents to reassure them about the service. And I've had the residents then write back to me to say thank you, and can you thank officers for that response, because it went beyond and above. So I'm not having this attack on our officers, and for that reason I'm not supporting the opposition business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penfold. Councillor Withington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a ward member for Sheringham, which was for some reason we had a lot of issues, but these were issues that were related to the Lokes and our wonderful back alleys that are a mosaic across Sheringham. What I will say, based on Councillor Cushing's own figures of 2,000 missed bins, in that case around 690,000 bins over that 9-week period were collected correctly. I know from ours that due to the extremely hard work of the loading teams and the support vehicles that were put in place prior to it, with them expecting some issues, that many of the bins in our Lokes, if they were due on a Friday, weren't collected, that someone did go back on a Sunday sometimes and pick those up. That was planned in, and it was there to help, and it was a huge relief. I'm also very disappointed to hear the comments towards our North Norfolk district officers, because I have to say that particularly, and I'm sure there are other officers involved, but the three that I have dealt with in particular, Scott Martin, Richard Crabb and Officer Hems, have been absolutely brilliant. And when I have emailed something in, it has been resolved. Appropriate map has been sent out to the truck so that the assisted collection has been then found. And we are at the point now where we had 3 or 4 areas in particular that all appear to have been resolved. And I think that is down to the input of our officers and the fact that those support vehicles, despite the issues with HTV, etc., were there and were available as much as possible to try and support this issue. They had anticipated that there were inevitably going to be some issues. So I would like to pass my personal thanks, and from those members of my ward who they have supported and got their bins sorted out for them. I'd like to pass on those thanks.
Thank you, councillor Housden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, I sit on the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and Serco's management came to a meeting in 2021. And it was quite clear from the Gantt charts that they submitted that they had no strategic planning for any crisis management. And the then contracts manager entered into a period of silence in this chamber when I questioned him about having a strategic crisis management plan, and he admitted he had none. That was in 2021. In October, the new contracts manager came, and again, he was questioned about a strategic contingency plan and admitted that they don't have a contingency plan for this kind of strategic work and crisis. He was questioned again at the November meeting, and we went very nearly no further forward. Now, I'm not suggesting it's the officer's fault, but it's absolutely clear, and everybody's mentioned 70,000 bins. A contract of that size should have strategic planning, and Serco do not, by their own admission, have any strategic planning when there are crises coming up and the sort of things they have to face. And I even had to suggest to the contracts manager that it would be a good idea to advertise on their lorries with magnetic posters for drivers. And he said, I'll take that back. So I think there's more to this than just what we've heard so far.
Thank you, councillor Housden. Councillor Adams.
I would say I share some of councillor Housden's concerns, first of all. But I wanted to say, Christopher mentioned an assumption it would be 2 weeks. It certainly didn't occur like that in Breckland, and some issues remained until last few weeks. Speaking to members at Thetford, they've certainly now got up to 100%, which is where we should certainly be in December. It was always going to be around 12 weeks to implement this transition, and that was something that members heard when they went to the briefing. I've also been disappointed by some of the service that Serco has provided, and I've held them to account for that continuously. But as we've heard, over 70,000 bins are collected each week. I believe 55,000 of those, or they're around domestic bins, plus the garden waste bin collections and commercial bin collections. So we hear that a small proportion have been impacted overall across the district, but any number is more than we would want. I've continued to speak to the chief executive for Serco for UK and Europe on these issues, and was having almost daily updates from council officers, but now weekly as the issues have reduced. I feel the environmental contracts team, which I think number around 6 people, have really done a tremendous job in providing everything they can to support the transition, providing information, bespoke mapping, other help. And I think they've been very, very responsive given the task that was given to them.
Can I ask please that you speed up a bit now?
Sure, the
because we are-
responsibility was for Serco, but confident things are getting back to normal. Very few repeated misses now. Most bins that are missed are going back the next day, and very happy to speak to any residents that have remaining issues. I'm, very happy to speak to anyone that has those. And besides Outlook, and my apologies, I believe I've apologized to everyone that's been in touch. It's still my intention to go out on at least one delivery round, and I'm still awaiting dates, so I look forward to doing that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, councillor John Toy, you wish to speak?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief then, Madam Chair, because a lot of it's already been said as we've gone along. I can only praise officers for the work they've done. I think that's incumbent on everybody here. It's been mentioned that it's high profile, that most people would mention bin collecting. And I went to the very first briefing, which officers gave up an evening for, and I think there was 2 or 3 members there. There was more staff than there was members. And actually, that comes from all sides of the house. We needed to engage with this, where they explained how long it would take and how we could help that process. And I think we need to remember that as well, Madam Chair. But I couldn't support this because of the way it's critical of our officers, who I know have worked extremely hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perry Warnes.
with this organisation. In fact, it rests in this chamber, Madam Chairman. It rests with us as councillors. We are ultimately responsible to our electors. So anything which anybody draws out of the motion, which is critical, be sure of one thing: we are in that line of fire. And I don't see any reason why anybody, quite frankly, can distance themselves from the line of fire, whether it be Serco or whether it be this organisation. We have to accept it. And I think one particular word that I picked up and I think was particularly useful, this is about accountability, not blame. This isn't about criticism of officers. This is about us being bold enough to say, this has not gone well and we need to do better. That's what it's about. Putting emotion into this does not help. Allocating blame does not help. And just for a point of accuracy, yes, Overview and Scrutiny has spent a great deal of time looking at this in 2 meetings recently. Prior to that, it did look at the project, but for Councillor Shire's benefit, I will just say that the calling criteria for this matter doesn't allow the matter to be called in because it's not a key decision. Key decisions are what are called into Overview and Scrutiny. That's if Overview and Scrutiny were minded to do so even at that point. I don't think any of us had sufficient foresight to understand completely what was coming down the track. And benefit is, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But this, as I said, is about us accepting responsibility across the board. And none of us should be sidestepping or sloping our shoulders in that respect. So that's the thrust of this motion. And if you draw something else out of this, which is targeting officers, then I think that's very disappointing. And I think that's very unfortunate and inappropriate, quite honestly. We have to be big enough and bold enough to stand up and take responsibility where it has to be borne. So, Madam Chairman, I will restrict my comment to that, but I would certainly commend the motion in its sentiment that we do accept responsibility for the services that we provide. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon, and you are seconding the motion. Right. Councillor Cushing, if you'd like to summarise, please.
I really can add little. I mean, Councillor Dixon has covered all the main points I was going to make. I said to the resident I mentioned in my speech that I was going to give him an update afterwards about how this debate went. And I have to say the responses from the Liberal Democrat group will give him cold comfort indeed. It's ultimately, as Councillor Dixon's made the point, it is the residents which are at the heart of this motion, isn't it? Residents that we need to put at the heart of everything we do in this chamber. And I follow up the point that Councillor Perry Warnes has made. This is the sovereign body of this council. Councillor Evans, you can put a note in a booklet, the Outlook booklet, which was distributed, which may or may not be read by residents of this. Says, Councillor Lloyd, you can apologise in the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting, which I suspect will only be noted by the members of the Overview and Scrutiny meeting. But these events often in this chamber are publicised in the EDP and the other local press, and it's up to us here to stand up and take accountability and express our remorse for what has actually happened. So that's why we've got the motion in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cushing. Anybody else? No, sorry, can't say. Sorry, I beg your pardon. We've finished. We've actually done our minute. It's to it's the vote, yes. Just have to. So we're going to the vote. The vote is for it's proposed by Councillor Cushing and seconded by Councillor Nigel Dixon.
Chair, can we have a roll call vote, please?
We certainly have a roll call vote. Is to accept or refuse this recommendation. So if you could read this out, Cara, please.
Thank you. So
it's to accept. It is proposed by Councillor Cushing, seconded by Councillor Dixon, to accept the opposition business motion to, yes, I think it's to apologise. It doesn't actually say. Does it say?
Second page.
Right, publicly apologise for the failure of the business. I can't see this. Can you just show me where it is? Where?
Would you like me to read it out?
Yes, you read it out. It's your.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I've been asked to read out the part for members to vote on. So for its part, NNDC must hold its hands up. And this motion calls on the council to publicly apologise to residents and businesses for its part in those service delivery failures and to redouble its efforts to work with Serco to restore the expected service delivery standards across the district. This is a recorded vote and I will go through to see if members are for what I've read out, against or abstain. So firstly, Councillor Adams, Councillor Bevan-Jones, Councillor Birch,
Against.
Councillor Blathwaite, Councillor Brown,
Against.
Councillor Butakova P, Councillor Butakova,
Against.
Councillor Cushing,
For.
Councillor Dixon, Councillor Fitch-Tillett, abstain, Councillor Fisher,
Against.
Councillor Fitzpatrick T, Councillor Fitzpatrick V, Councillor Fredericks,
We have, and I will abstain. Thank you.
Councillor Gay, Councillor Grove Jones,
Against.
Councillor Heinink,
Against.
Councillor Heinrich,
Abstain.
Councillor Holiday, Councillor Housden, Councillor Kershaw,
Against.
Councillor Lloyd, Councillor Mancini Boyle,
For.
Councillor Pearce, Councillor Penfold,
Against.
Councillor Perry Warnes. Was that 4? Councillor Punchard, Councillor Rest, Councillor Seward, Councillor Shires, Councillor Spagnola, abstain, Councillor Stenton, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Troy,
Against.
Councillor Varley, and Councillor Withington.
Against.
I have 13 for, 19 against and 4 abstentions.
Thank you. So that has failed. I must apologise for not reading the end of that motion, what we were supposed to be voting on, but
Apology
didn't-
accepted.
so thank you for that. That was a difficult one, I think, because I think we all understand the problems that our residents, they're the main people. As Nigel said, it's the residents who are suffering, but we have to look at the fact that there has been a lot of work done between the officers and Serco. We're not here to place blame. We're here to try and work round the problems and solve them. I must tell you, I had a phone call Friday night from a very distressed gentleman in one of my districts about his black bin bag collection. I emailed Scott Martin. I had an email back on Monday morning, and one of his operatives went round and saw this gentleman yesterday to just see what the problem was, because there was a problem with access. So I think things are beginning to get better. Right, enough said on that. We now go to notice of motion 17. None received. We have no need to exclude the press and public. And I don't think there's any private business. And we finished at 20 to 8.